Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're so glad to welcome you as part of our community tonight. Please note that this webinar is being recorded and distributed live stream. By entering this virtual meeting room, you give your consent to be recorded and distributed by Simeon Live, by Vienna Live with Simeon Moro and other third parties. If you prefer to not be recorded, please turn off your camera and microphone and/or go to the Facebook Live video feed, the link to which I'll now place in the chat room. For a better experience, please turn off your microphone and set your video to gallery view. This show thrives on participant contributions, and all participants are encouraged to actively participate in this webinar by asking questions and making comments. To do so, please either write in the chat room, raise your hand, or turn on your microphone to say hi, and I will be delighted to include your perspective in the conversation. Tonight, our featured guest is Dr. Pieter de Rooij, Senior Lecturer and Researcher for the Master of Science, Leisure and Tourism Studies program at the Breda University of Applied Sciences. Pieter, welcome.
Hi. Simeon.
Hi. So, Pieter, tell us, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. Living in the Netherlands, married, 2 children, working at Breda University. And I'm busy with 3 kinds of things: education, academic research, and I'm doing also external projects in terms of marketing for professional organizations.
Okay, so Pieter, tell us a little bit about your career. So as I understand it, you started actually in marketing, and you started in that field first in tourism, which I know is a very large industry in the Netherlands. Then you did it for sports, and finally in the so-called cultural industries. Tell us about each one of those. Do they have more in common with each other, or do they have more differences?
Yeah, it's an interesting issue. I studied leisure studies myself a long time ago. And when you look at leisure studies, actually, it comprehends a lot of different areas, such as tourism, culture, sports, also nature. So think of these national parks, events, media. So leisure time is really a really broad area. So the study which I did covered these areas. I started working at a so-called destination marketing organization in one of the provinces in the Netherlands, doing marketing and doing research. I moved over to a ferry company, P&O North Sea Ferries, with big ships sailing from the Netherlands to the UK. Then I moved over to the sports environment with a small consultancy agency, research agency, and being born with parents and grandparents in educational life, so working in schools. The breakfast morning stories were about education. So I guess I heard a lot of stories which made me interested to make the step once to education. And after a couple of years of, let's say, practical experience, I moved over to Breda University.
And can you tell us a little bit about those breakfast conversations? Tell us about your what kind of influence were they? Also researchers like yourself, or were they doing more elementary education?
It was elementary education, yeah, primary school, head teacher of the local primary school, yeah. So, well, I mean, I believe that a lot of people are rather likely to follow the path of their parents. So, at least I did, and I know that some of my friends also did did the same way, because I mean, and that's the breakfast stories, I guess. Yeah? So you hear these stories, and apparently you are in quite some cases you are attracted to it.
Fantastic. So let's take a look at this Breda University that you are senior lecturer and researcher at.
Is it your dream to start your own enterprise after graduation? To start working at the other side of the world? Do you have any ideas for an innovative product or concept? In a small-scale, diverse and international study environment, Breda University of Applied Sciences offers plenty of opportunities to make your dreams come true. We have both professional and academic bachelor's and master's programs in the following domains: built environment and logistics, games and media, hotel and facility, leisure and events, tourism, and data science and artificial intelligence. Discover what Breda University of Applied Sciences has to offer you. With some 7,000 students from over 100 countries, we are a small-scale and diverse university of applied sciences. Lecturers know your name and are easily accessible for consultation or advice. We collaborate with top companies at home and abroad, so you can do your work placement or graduation project at large names in your field: Samsung, Talpa, Arriva, and Hilton, to name but a few. We collaborate with other universities and universities of applied sciences worldwide. Would you like to do research or a project abroad or go on exchange? It's all in it for you. In our learning community, learning to run a business is central. We stimulate you to start your own enterprise. You can even choose to do so as a graduation project. We have a new and green campus close to the city center of Breda, a university town par excellence. The campus is a place to meet up, make friends, and get inspired. We're looking forward to meeting you at our Breda campus.
Fantastic. So Pieter, tell us about this university. So I take it you pursued your PhD, I think, at a different university, and then you started working for this university. So it's a university of applied sciences. They talked in the video about being an entrepreneur, managing your own business. I take it your work is a little bit different. You cover kind of different aspects than that so-called applied sciences, practical knowledge. You're more in the theory, I guess one might say. Tell us a little bit about the university, how you got there, and how why you decided to do a PhD and then move full-time there into teaching.
Yeah. Well, when I moved over to Breda University already quite a while ago, it was a university of, let's say, real applied sciences. Around 15 years ago, the university was more and more interested in academic education and academic research. So they provided opportunities for staff to start with a PhD. And in the Netherlands, when you do a PhD, you cannot do that at the University of Applied Sciences, but you need to do that at another university. So I pursued my PhD at Tilburg University. Nowadays, we call it a hybrid university. So on the one hand, we offer many professional programs. That is in the applied direction, you might say. And we also offer some academic programs, which are normally found in, let's say, the regular university or regular academic universities.
Can you tell us, Pieter, a little bit about leisure studies itself? Now, what is this field? Because when I met you originally at a conference, then you told me, oh yeah, I do leisure studies. And what came to my mind was, wow, only in the Netherlands could you study leisure. I mean, it seems like some kind of very special field, you know, where you'd be dedicated to studying how people, yeah, have fun, or like you said, not have fun. It's about recreation. So
Yeah.
tell us about this field and tell us about what that means if you're studying at the Breda University under the tutelage of Dr. de Rooij.
Yeah. Well, if you look at the areas of our university, and if you look at the areas of the leisure industry, actually it covers a broad range of industries, different industries with a different character. So you've got the tourism industry, the sports industry, the nature industry, events industry, the media industry, arts and culture industry, and all they're all different, and at the same time they are all competing for our leisure time, because our leisure time is really limited, and we make our choices. And if you count all these separate industries I just listed, and you would look at the number of people working in all these industries, it is really huge. So I guess, and the figures, they range and they are different. So what do you include or what do you exclude? But I guess more than 10% in Europe, and I guess also in other Western countries, I get more than 10% of all the people, they work in these kind of industries. So it is a really major economic force, you might say.
And about the student profiles. So I know one student who decided to pursue a Bachelor of Leisure and Tourism Studies. She said that she before studied physical education, and then she decided to go into this program. How do I know when leisure studies are right for me?
That's a good idea. That's a good question. I believe the field should really touch you. So what you see is there are a lot of different programs also, for example, in the arts and culture industry. Yeah? So we have separate bachelor and master programs geared to the culture industry. The same with sports. And what we see is that our students, they are interested and attracted to this broad field of leisure, not really exactly knowing what kind of industry they are really would like to proceed.
Okay, and what happens when somebody, tell us about this bachelor program.
Yeah, but with the we have let's say a professional bachelor program which takes 4 years. We have an academic bachelor program which takes 3 years, and normally when you do a 3-year academic program, you do a master as a follow-up. Well, quite some people, they end up in the industries I just was talking about. And some other people, they have, let's say, broad competencies, so they can also work in other industries. So this is you showing now our bachelor program. This is the 3-year academic program, and we have also this pre-master program, academic pre-master program, and 1-year master program. And one of the interesting issues in our program is what we call the network society. So when you think of working in leisure and making this leisure offer from an organizational perspective, you always need to collaborate with a lot of different parties, with a lot of different stakeholders. So so therefore we like to refer to this network idea. So being able to create a network, to recognize the relevance of this network, and to be able to collaborate with other stakeholders is really crucial in order to get the work done in the leisure industry.
Fantastic. And so Pieter, we were just looking at these the bachelor and master's programs. Your students, do they, is it clear for them by the time they finish the master's where they're going, what they're going to be doing in professional life? Are they going into communication? Are they, let's take a look actually at this next video, which shows us, it's from a student perspective, what the master's program is like. Let's take a look at that right now.
The year is divided in 2 separate semesters, and in the first semester you have different knowledge courses to gain more knowledge that you need further down the road, and you have a quantitative course to get to know how to work with different data sets, and you can also apply it immediately with a project that you're doing for a commissioner. The second semester is more on the qualitative side, so you have one big project that you can design yourself right now, choose your topic and start interviewing people. Also, of course, quantitative data to gain the last little bit of knowledge that you need to know, and 2 knowledge courses. We had sociology and labor care and leisure. My favorite course of the first semester was labor care and leisure. I enjoyed it that much because it's about how people divide their free time and leisure. What do they do during their time? The second semester is divided in 4 parts. You have leisure urban development, which is about the city, how it's developed. You have innovation and change, which is about innovations in leisure. You have research methods 4, which is a follow-up course of the semester 1. And you have research practical, and that's your final thesis of the year, which contains qualitative research. You start from scratch, so you make a group. I work together with 3 other students from my class. The research will be about sustainable skiing in Austria. My favorite project so far it's called Project 3. It is in the first semester, and you work together with 3 others for a commissioner. And in the end, with all the class, or with the class, you give one big presentation because several topics are divided, and it becomes one big project that you present to the commissioner. If you want to follow the academic master over here at BUAS, I would advise you to do the pre-master as well, because you just gain a lot of knowledge and research skills that you will need for the academic master following up. My personal advice would be make a really good planning, because it's really the key to a successful year.
So the master is divided in 2.
Wow, that looks really challenging. So, Pieter, what courses do you teach? What do your students normally? How are they when they enter your classes and when they leave? She talked about qualitative and quantitative knowledge, a lot of knowledge, a lot of different kinds of knowledge. So, what is it exactly? If you could maybe tell us in more general language, are your students learning?
Yeah. So I'm involved with, let's say, 2 types of courses. One is research based. So as an example, the student just referred to a project 3, what she referred to, and which was a project we did for Loevestein Castle, a very old castle. And we did that in the Corona period. And the castle, which is a museum, was really curious into risk perceptions. So what kind of risk perceptions do people have in their decision-making process? So should they or should they not attend Loevestein Castle in this Corona period, which is, crucial information for the castle to know. So, that was one part. Another part was, let's say, evaluating the satisfaction and experiences of the visitors who attended Loevestein Castle in the end, and how they perceived the precaution measures in terms of COVID. So that all that is relevant information, obviously, to know for a leisure organization. So that's about research. And on the other hand, I'm involved with a range of marketing courses, and we call it experience marketing, because we believe that especially the services in leisure industries should in the end provide experiences for the visitors. And we aim to deliver, let's say, extraordinary experiences, which might be, or hopefully will be, at least memorable, sometimes meaningful, and maybe even transformational. That is that is really hard to get, but we are aiming, or the students and the companies are aiming to deliver, let's say, extraordinary experiences in the end.
Wow, how exciting, how inspiring. And then it makes sense why these students would be willing to learn so much, to take on such an array of courses, and really to tackle so much qualitative and quantitative knowledge, as they say. So, Pieter, I'd like to hand it over to you. I understand that you have a presentation to make us about your own research called Understanding Customer Audiences and Creating an Audience-Centric Organization.
Yeah, I will share my screen, and if there are some questions from the audience, so you can always shout and ask, and I will try to provide an answer. So I will start my presentation right now. Here it is. I guess you can see it. So what is in academics like to make models, and so on the left hand side you see, let's say, the actors which are relevant in the leisure industry. So on the one hand you have the supply, on the other hand you have the individual, the visitor, the consumer, the customer, with his consumption motives, involvement, etc. But on the supply side, there is this experiential platform, which in many cases will be physical. There will be many services, but nowadays, obviously, these platforms can be digital as well. Then there is this experience of the customer, may be divided in between a visit experience and a post experience. And there are several outcomes in terms of how do people perceive service quality, what is their satisfaction, loyalty, how do they evaluate their experiences, and so on. So this is a framework I use in my class, and these are also concepts I study also together with the students. Well, what is interesting is the concept of involvement. So this is about cultural activity involvement, and so you may wonder, why is it that someone is involved with cultural activities, and why is the other person maybe involved with sports? And here you see, let's say, 4 key dimensions which tell you something about the level of involvement. So on the one hand, are you attracted to a specific form of leisure activity? So does it give you pleasure doing that activity? To what extent is it central in your life? What is let's say a hidden dimension is self-expression, which is actually very key. Especially leisure, certainly leisure is the way to express yourself. And social bonding. So these social ties are really important. So if a lot of friends of you go to a sports match, you might be likely to join them. While on the other hand, if you have, for example, no friends who like to visit a museum, well, it will influence your museum attendance. In my PhD study, I studied consumption motives of visitors of a theater in Tilburg. I've had 50 in-depth interviews, and this was the overall picture. And I'd like to illustrate that with some quotes. On the left-hand side, you see some cultural motives, and on the right-hand side, you see some social motives, with the core motive, cultural aesthetics, being in the middle, because that's the real core visitor motive. So in terms of cultural stimulation, people would like to learn something from their performing arts experience. They also, well, they come to have to have a good time. They want to be have some recreational time as well, to be entertained. Cultural aesthetics, that's the core. It should be really nice, obviously. You have cultural transmission. So quite some people would like to stimulate their children or grandchildren to attend cultural activities. So they go together with their family. On the right hand side, you have the social motives, really important, the social attraction. So this really explains, I believe, a lot of how we spend our leisure. Yeah, so this is the reason why some people like to attend, for example, classical music performances. It is not only because of the cultural aesthetics, but also because they feel attracted to the people being there. The same counts for people, for example, walking in national parks or going to a sports match, a professional sport match. So the social attraction is really key in explaining how we spend our leisure time. Social distinction is also relevant. So, well, some people, we like to talk about it and say, we have been doing this and we have been doing that. Social bonding, obviously. So spending time with your family and friends is really crucial. And finally, the social duty. So when a family member of you needs to give a performance, obviously you attend that performance because you want to see it. Yeah? So these are all motives. And in terms of marketing, it is really crucial to understand why people do what they do, because only then you can try to create value for your customers. So this is, I believe, this is crucial knowledge for organizations. My focus of my PhD was customer loyalty. I go a little bit quick, but you can divide it between affective loyalty, so feelings of commitment, intentions, which is cognitive loyalty, and behavioral loyalty. So there is, well, when you say loyalty, there is more to it than just your behavior. What I've been doing, I've been trying to understand loyalty towards a theater in the Netherlands, and I made this division in 3 groups. So on the one hand, you have these incidental spectators attending the theater only once or maybe twice a year, and on the other hand, you have this core audience attending 6 times or more. And this core audience, in terms of the database, the customer database of an organization, this core audience is relatively small. This core audience is feeling at home. So they are really orientated at the venue. Yeah. So on the other hand, the incidental spectators, it's really a pragmatic convenience choice. Yeah? So they are performance oriented. Yeah? So they wherever the performer is, they attend that specific theater. So that actually, if you, in terms of marketing, that also implies that if you're talking to your core audience members, it should be relationship oriented, your communication. While when you're talking to incidental spectators, they're not interested to establish a relationship with you. They are rather transactionally oriented. So this is, let's say, the understanding audiences. When you take it from the organizational perspective, also from a marketing perspective, you see these discussions in cultural organizations. So this discussion between, on the one hand, a product focus, and on the other hand, this audience focus. So in some cultural organizations, taking this product focus idea, they are really internally driven. So they want to drive the market instead of being market driven. So they don't want to adapt their artistic product to the audiences. On the other side, you have quite some cultural organizations with this audience focus, and they are willing to adapt their product in line with audiences' preferences. And I really like that saying of Sartre. So that there is no art except for and by others. So to me, an audience or the audience, the visitor, is crucial for the cultural product. In terms of audience development, this is always an issue within cultural organizations. There are three elements which are important. So one is are the financial goals, are increasing audiences, are increasing visitor numbers. So that is how you can, well, increase the impact of the organization. On the other hand, a lot of cultural organizations have social goals, have these social targets in a way that they would like to also get some new audiences. So inclusion is really important, certainly nowadays in the cultural industry. And at the same time, it is about deepening audiences. It is about educational and artistic goals. So the difficulty within cultural organizations is to balance these three goals. So which is really different from purely commercial organizations, for example, selling computers or whatsoever, because they only have this goal of making money. And actually, this balancing act also reflects other leisure industries. This also comes back in the sports industry, or in the industry of national parks, or in the industry of media. So all these discussions of balancing between different goals is really typical for the leisure industry, which is really fascinating to think about. How many do I still can show some slides, or should I stop, Samian?
We have plenty of time.
Yeah. Okay. So in terms of organization strategies, it's important for organizations to think, okay, there is this social focus, this artistic focus, this commercial focus, and which position should I take as an organization? So organizations can take, well, either of these 7 positions. And it is often said that you should not take this third position, because then you get stuck in the middle. You should try to be good in something. You can't be good in everything. Although you might say, well, I want to focus on these 2 aspects, for example, social focus and commercial focus. So then you opt for position 4. So this is a picture which well is helpful in discussions within organizations, cultural organizations, and to align ideas of staff. Same goes for this. This is a value creation model. So actually the goal of marketing is to create value. So a lot of people believe that marketing is the same as selling something. Well, that is nonsense, actually. Actually, a good marketeer, he or she needs to understand the audiences and try to create value. And in terms of, let's say, cultural value, well, you might say, well, there are 4 types of value you might create. So there is this field of aesthetics, educational value, maybe some relaxation value or social value. And organizations, they should think, okay, what should be my core value? And then the idea is that you should dominate in one, differentiate in the other, and you should just perform on par in the rest. So you cannot be good in everything. So life is all about making choices, also for cultural organizations. And when you look at the staff of organizations, this is let's say a regular organization. But when you look at positions in the cultural industry, you have these positions, and in some cases there is a lack of collaboration between departments, and so the main goal actually of the marketeer is to try to support other staff members and try to increase collaboration in terms of improving customer centricity or audience centricity, whatever you call it. So the marketeer actually should try to support collaboration in terms of audience centricity between all staff members. And I guess this was my presentation. That was the final slide.
Fantastic. Pieter, can you just tell us quickly about this customer centricity? Is that called something, different names in different industries, like officer of engagement or something? Or how, can you explain a little bit more that role? Or is that in fact you or your students? You would consider yourselves, if you would take a position, you would be that officer of customer centricity?
Yeah, well, marketing, the field of marketing is always good in finding new concepts, finding new buzzwords. So every year there is a new buzzword, you might say. So you refer to engagement, and that has been the main buzzword for 5 years now. So that apparently that is really key. So when you look at marketing departments, they have engagement officers. And but 5 years ago, these people had different positions, but maybe they did the same thing.
Fantastic. And so I wanted to ask you about this idea of, like you said, those social circles where you have at the one end, you know, the core people who are always there, you know, they are, you know, at the center of these organizations. And then you have from there on out, kind of people are a little bit less connected until you get to the people who kind of just go between those different social milieux, those social scenes. So is it, when you talk about how organizations could, they have one social aspect where they're trying to broaden their audience, does that not then push away other people who see themselves as defining that audience? I mean, I take a very famous in my family at least, a famous anecdote about probably something most people would consider terrible, that back in the 1950s, when there was in Virginia a Protestant church that wanted to invite Black parishioners to come and take part, actually what happened when he invited them was actually then all of the white families simply left and they built another church, because they did not see themselves as being part of that new community. Does that social aspect, in fact, can it only happen when actually the core people involved see themselves as inclusive?
Yes, that is the word I was looking for. So inclusiveness is really important in this respect, and I believe so on the one hand, people, some people will feel included. So if you belong to a particular social group, you feel included. But if you don't belong to a particular social group, you will feel excluded. So it is a barrier. So on the one hand, it could be a motive and a point of attraction to go there. If you feel included, on the other hand, it's a barrier. And but that's a difficulty. Also for classical music, for example. So there is, later on we have an example of Tivoli Vredenburg coming up. And when you look at classical music concerts, the audience is really gray. So there's a really old audience, and it's really difficult to attract young people to the stage, because, well, really young people, they feel disconnected with the current people visiting classical music, and they also have different habits. Yeah. So once we move over to Tivoli Vredenburg, I will elaborate a little bit.
Let's do it. So let's go on. We have some case studies here that we are so pleased, delighted that Pieter will share with us. So these are different researches into theaters around the Netherlands and how, in fact, if they had a chief officer of audience centricity, how they can better cater to these audiences, how better to get new people there or to branch out. Is that right? So they were looking to become more inclusive. Is that right, Pieter?
Yeah, and to be more inclusive, and also, I guess, also to survive.
Fantastic. Let's take a look. So the first one is the Tivoli Vredenburg, and it's about searching what they did, searching for youngsters interested in classical music and adapting their product. So like you said, not saying you will listen to this or you will do that, but saying, you know, going, like you said, over to the customer side and saying, how can we best make our product service for them?
Yeah. So they changed their product. So this is Tivoli Vredenburg. This is the largest performing arts organization in the Netherlands. It's based in Utrecht. This is their main hall. I guess around 1,700 seats are in there. But what Tivoli Vredenburg did was they adapted their core product, because when you want to attract a new audience, you need to change. You need to adapt your product. So they introduced a product called Pieces of Tomorrow, which is a symphonic music, but embedded in a pop concert context. So, for example, you could enter the hall not being well dressed like you are now at this moment, Samian, but you can go in just like me. You can walk in with a beer. Yeah, during when the music is played, you can have a drink. There is this DJ talking in between these pieces. There is this after party. The timing is a little bit different, so they don't start at 8 o'clock. But well, they might start at 9 o'clock or maybe 9:30, which is more in time for young people. And there is this after party, so there is all these additional services. So when you want to attract a new audience, you must be really willing to change and adapt your core product. Otherwise, you will not attract this new audience.
And so what was the result? Were they able to then, like you said, get those people from a different social scene into their building, get them to their events?
Yeah, well, they did for this type of concert, but I guess for the majority of the other concerts, I believe it is still mostly attended by the old audience. So it keeps on being a main challenge.
Seems like a generational one, like you said, that maybe it'll be coming from the grandparents and their breakfast conversations.
Yeah.
Okay, the next theater then is De Kring Roosendaal. The audience is allowed to select the program on 6 Tuesday afternoons every year. And Pieter, I must say you are also on the supervisory board of De Kring Roosendaal Theater.
Yeah. So the Kring Roosendaal Theater is a smaller town, smaller theater, but really nice. And what they do is really interesting, because they really apply this idea of co-creation. So normally you have one person in the theater responsible for programming, and this person, he or she, selects the artists. But in terms of co-creation, it becomes more and more important to listen to your audience and say, okay, we're not doing this for ourselves, we're doing this for you. So what would you like to see? So they really give this audience a vote. They can really say, well, I want to see this, or I want to attend such a performance, and they try to book it. So they obviously they can't make promises, but they really do their best to take into account all their wishes and program these performances. They do that on Tuesday, I guess Tuesday afternoons. And what you see here is that the audience is attracted to these performances, and they keep on going. And why do they keep on going? Because they know which people to meet. So they meet friends. Yeah. So there is this social attraction, which is really crucial in understanding leisure behavior.
And Pieter, is that such a policy that's geared towards that loyalty segment? Is that right? That they're trying to get the people more involved who are already involved and get them to kind of invest more. Is that right? This is not for the occasional visitors.
No, that's correct, because the occasional visitor, he or she will say, well, I'm not interested in co-creation. I just want to pick the things I want, and that's it. So yes, so this is the loyal segment. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. The next one, Park Theater, Eindhoven. A long table was created for people to attend the theater alone who want to meet other people. So in case your friend or girlfriend breaks up with you, or boyfriend, then you can just go there and meet a new boyfriend or girlfriend at this long table yourself.
Yeah. Well, in the Netherlands, we have a lot of people living alone. I don't know the exact numbers, but it is a huge number of people are living alone. And that really impacts your leisure choices. So if you don't have a partner to attend a museum, or well, in the museum you might think, well, okay, I can do that alone. But attending a performing arts performance, especially during the breaks, that's not really nice, because then you're standing there alone. Yeah. So what they did is they had this really long table, and if you book a ticket on your own, or you could just sit down at the table, and you knew, well, my neighbor here or over there, she is also alone. So it's a matter of this. It is again this social aspect.
Was it successful, Pieter? I must say, also my own anecdote was in Amsterdam. I remember going to a coffee shop like that, and they had a table where everybody was just sitting around the table, and it was really great. I mean, you really felt like this is exactly why, what you're looking for. You don't want to sit at your own table. You go there because you want to feel close with other people, and even if you're not talking to them, you feel, well, we're we're all alone together.
And that is the main value of leisure, because leisure provides social connection. So that is really crucial. So all leisure organizations should actually think, how can we add value to our customers in providing these connections?
Fantastic. So the next case study is the Chasset Theater, Breda, there where the University of Applied Sciences, using the domains of consumption motives on their website to communicate the program, instead of solely presenting the division in genre. I don't exactly understand that case study. Can you maybe explain that a little bit?
Yeah. So theaters, they always have the difficulty in telling what their program is, and because this Chasset Theater in Breda, I guess they have around 300 to 400 performances every year, and that is difficult to communicate. So then the question is, do you communicate this in terms of genre? So do you offer on the website, do you offer a list saying, okay, here is a list of our classical music, here is a list of drama, here is a list of cabaret, etc., etc. So that is a choice. At the same time, people are not always looking or are not always aware of what they exactly want. So what the Chasset Theater did was to relate it more to the consumption motives I just showed in my presentation, and try to think, okay, why do people want to visit us? Is it because they want to learn something? Well, then we will make a collection of all performances where people might learn something. So that is a different approach, which really aligns with, I believe, consumption behavior and decision-making processes.
Fantastic. So, and absolutely seems like a perfect match that the theater would do it in the same town as the university.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And now we go into the Parkstadt Limburg theaters, evaluating each show with a short questionnaire and open questions, and discussing the information the day after with a range of departments in order to improve the customer experience. So now this is all, like you said, this is much more internally focused in the administration, as opposed to going directly for input from the consumer.
Yeah. This is how organizations deal with, let's say, satisfaction surveys. So what this theater has been doing already for maybe 8 or 9 years now. If you would attend this theater in Heerlen tonight, the day after, or maybe the same night, you will receive a short satisfaction survey consisting of 3 closed questions and 1 open question. And especially this 1 open question really helps the theater to provide and improve their services. And a lot of people make use of the possibilities to provide this feedback. And this feedback is not only sitting on the table of the marketing people, because they're not alone. they should be supported by the whole organization. So this information is shared with hospitality departments, with the programming director, etc., in order to improve the services of the theater.
Wow. Fantastic. And our last case study is the University Museum of Utrecht, using written feedback from visitors and discussions between marketing management and the curator. So that must have been not very welcomed by the curator. I believe they really like to make decisions themselves.
Well, that is the point, and that is key. So what you might say that artistic directors tend to have, let's say, an artistic focus. So the marketeer's position is not always easy in these cultural organizations. So what this university or this university museum did was, okay, let us try to get the real feedback from our visitors. So visitors were able to write down what they felt, and this written feedback, this story-like written feedback, was discussed with the artistic director and the man who made the programmatic choices. And actually these words, which come directly from the heart of the visitors, obviously are really strong and might be even stronger than the normal discussions with the marketing manager.
Wow. And do you know how was it received, and what was the result? Did the curator leave, or did they have a big success?
Well, it was well received, because I mean you cannot deny the heart of your visitors. Yeah? So every cultural organization is dependent on its visitors. So you should be really open to your visitors, I believe. And then when people are able to provide written feedback, wow, that's brilliant, because it is their story.
Fantastic. Wow. Well, thank you so much for those case studies and bringing those to our attention. A trip through some of the most influential theaters in Europe. So this brings us to our roundtable, the distinction between culture and leisure. So as we said, leisure, Peter, as you mentioned, it covers so many different branches, and culture is just one of them. For instance, not as opposed to sports or tourism or whatever. So this was actually a question submitted to us on LinkedIn by Tito Visser, artistic director at the Netherlands Chamber Choir. He writes, what I am struck about is the fact that culture is seen as part of leisure. When the Netherlands Chamber Choir had to cancel 8 shows of the Christmas concerts in the Netherlands due to Corona regulation, the only reason that the concerts in Germany could still take place was thanks to the fact that politicians made a clear distinction between culture and leisure. What's your response?
Well, I try to make it clear that from, let's say, the leisure perspective, there are all these different industries, and that all these industries are competing for people's leisure time. Yeah. So in terms of leisure consumption behavior, the arts and cultural world is competing with the tourism industry or the sports industry or the media industry or the national park industry or whatsoever. So to me, it is, and to a lot of visitors, it is well part of their leisure time, and maybe a short illustration will make this clear. In the Netherlands, we have the so-called Rijksmuseum, which is in Amsterdam. They have a new exposition about the revolution in Indonesia. So the Dutch people have a long history in Indonesia, also a bad history, you might say, because, well, we after the Second World War, it was the Dutch people who committed crimes over there. Well, this Rijksmuseum now has this exhibition about revolution in Indonesia, and it is not only, let's say, the collection they want to demonstrate, but in addition they also have events throughout the Netherlands on different spots. They make school material for secondary schools, so they have a lot of other activities apart from their museum setting. So this actually proves that if you want to expose something in a museum, it is not just, well, not only, let's say, the world of arts or culture, but you can relate it also to events or even to schools, to secondary schools. So it is much broader to me. So actually that relates to the network society we're living in and connecting to all different stakeholders.
Wow, extraordinary what you tell about the Rijksmuseum. So, and Pieter, and his point about if, culture was considered, in Vienna, the debate was very famous between the Catholic Church and religious institutions, which were allowed to stay open during the pandemic, and all of the so-called even cultural institutions, which had to shut down. And they said, well, that's, and it's well known that the Viennese, many of them of a certain generation, they believed that that kind of culture, going back to that romantic music and those cultural associations, were tantamount to a religious institution, really. Yeah. So is that, do you have any, and I get the impression that's where Mr. Visser is coming from.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. And in this pandemic, I understand these choices. Yeah? So I understand it completely. But from a leisure consumption perspective, and that is my perspective I'm taking, I do feel that arts and culture is part of leisure.
Fantastic. So our last question is leisure before, during, and after the pandemic. What are your thoughts, Pieter, and what do you see? What can you, looking into the future, does it look good for leisure for the consumers, or does it not look so good?
Yeah, it's a difficult area. I think digital, let's say, digital possibilities really improved. So that is also the reason why we are here and spending our time here. Yeah? So at the same time, if I look at performing arts experiences, so there is this example of Ital Live in Amsterdam, broadcasting. So on the one hand, yes, they have been able to broadening their audiences. Yeah, so I mean, they have been broadening the audiences because it was broadcasted in many countries. So yes, that is positive. On the other hand, I guess that, let's say, the real life experience will never really be able to replace the online experience in terms of performing arts. So I really wonder how these organizations will proceed. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, lucky for us, we know the right person to contact to talk about it all. So let's see how we can stay in touch with Pieter. Here's his website at the Breda University. It is, I will put it in the chat room in a second. So Pieter, people just have to go here to the Breda University of Applied Sciences website, which is buas.nl, and they can find you and then reach out to you by clicking Contact Expert. Is that right?
Yeah, and then they immediately talk to me. No, just kidding.
Fantastic. Well, it's nice to know that that people can reach out to you and talk to you, even if it's not immediate. Fantastic. So I'll put that in the chat room now. Thank you so very much, Dr. Pieter de Rooij. Thank you for sharing your expertise. You're getting applause from the audience.
Oh,
thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us, and we hope very much to have you back on to hear about your research and all of the developments in the leisure industry.
Thank you for having me, Samuel.
So coming up next week, we have Diane Gaillard, The Art of Communicating. Communications, a word that we all throw around without much consideration, derives from the Latin word sharing. That might sound strange because we normally associate communications with the quote unquote commands made throughout the hierarchies of the business world. Indeed, according to management theory, communications are the sine qua non of business. If commands are not communicated to workers, no management can take place. Workers will just wait idly for a go-ahead they never get, or worse, they will start accomplishing tasks independently and according to their own perspective, which, in all likelihood, will counteract organizational effectiveness. Communication in practice is also sometimes seen as one way when it is actually a dance that needs a two-way interaction. Communications aren't exclusive to the business world. Communications also permit friends to express mutual appreciation through smiles, enemies to keep one another in check through stares, and parents to comfort the world's newcomers through embraces. Diane Gaillard is the co-founder of Consultancy 32, a network of international communications consultants. She provides services to large groups, startups, and public entities. Behind each communications action, she ultimately considers communication on the person-to-person level. Diane is passionate about helping individuals challenge and improve themselves through communication. Diane, welcome to our show for some profoundly professional insights into the gift of sharing. That's next Wednesday. Diane Gaillard, The Art of Communicating. As always, all information about upcoming shows is available at www.simonmorrow.com. Once again, thank you so very much to Pieter de Rooij. Thank you to Agnieszka Rivolet for her support of this show. Most of all, thanks to you, our participants who make it all worthwhile. From Breda, the Netherlands, and New London, New Hampshire, goodbye and see you next Wednesday.